Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Padawan Podcast, brought to you by Apocalypse Movies. I am Jake Berlin, your host, aka Qui-Gon Jake. I am included today by my fellow Rebel scum, Gio Ramos and Jacob Bartley. How's it going, fellas?
Greetings. This is C3GO, Human Cyborg Relations. What's happening? I love Star Wars, man. I watched Star Wars last 2 weeks.
As we all do. Jacob, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm Grand Moff Bartley, by the way.
All right, so welcome back to the Padawan Podcast. If you caught our last episode last week, we are now on to the road to The Force Awakens. And our second episode of reviewing all Star Wars movies. Today we're going to be talking about Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and Episode 4, A New Hope. I'm going to move on to A New Hope. The thing that started it all, the movie that kicked off the entire Star Wars universe, the one that we are so thankful for. But unfortunately, one we didn't get to witness in theaters. It's many years before.
I have a story about when I watched it in theaters.
It was many years before any of us
were
were
you
alive.
reincarnated,
So, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to talk about, when we first remember watching it, obviously at home. So Jacob, I'm going to start with you. Do you remember the first time you watched it? And, why do you love it so much? Like, why do you love Star Wars so much? The first one, A New Hope.
All right, so I was 6 months old. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't remember the first time. I probably literally was 6 months old because my dad's favorite thing in the world when he was a kid was Star Wars. And so I probably watched these movies 100 times each throughout my childhood, honestly. And it's weird because we didn't know how to judge quality back then, so I like the prequels just as much, but back then it was I loved every Star Wars movie when I was a kid, but this one I remember thinking it was really slow, but at the same time I loved it because I loved Obi-Wan Kenobi. I've always been drawn to Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know why, no matter who's playing him. I think just because my favorite color is blue and he had the blue lightsaber, so I was like,
Understandable.
I was always drawn to him. So, and just the one scene I remember the most as a kid was the when they go to the disposal and are they on the Death Star?
Yes, they're in the Death
garbage?
Star.
Yeah, when they go to the garbage
it's
disposal.
the Death Star, yes.
I remember that scene always creeped me out because that little creature with the eye that pops up, I was always creeped out as a kid. And yeah, I loved it. Just seeing the Millennium Falcon just fly in hyperspeed, I loved it as a kid. And it was the biggest influence on me as a kid. My dad gave me all his Star Wars toys and I broke them and lost them. It was the start of something beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
I loved it as a kid too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the first time I watched it either. Long time ago, but I do know that I didn't appreciate it then like I do now.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, it started something tremendous for all of us, but I still hold the very VHS tapes that I watched it on. I still have them. So they're my favorite movies of all time. So they're very special to me, and I just love the whole world that was created and the excitement and the characters and just the fun to it and the adventureness and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's very exciting, and I love that it was a risk taker too at the time, because I didn't know that then when I first watched it. But in 1977, no one would have thought of making something called Star Wars. People were laughing in the face of George Lucas because of Star Wars.
Yeah, I heard even the crew was they thought it was a joke.
So it's for it to be such the success that it is, it makes it that much more lovable. So it's a very special movie. I hate that I've never been able to see it in theaters. I hope that one day I'll be able to see it in theaters and hopefully in its original format.
I would love that.
That would be fantastic.
I'll be there for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, Gio, what about you? I'm sure you're on the same boat as we are, but do you remember the first time you watched it? And if so, what did you think?
Other than last week, I honestly don't remember last time I watched this movie as a kid. I do remember
we
how
watched
much.
it 3 weeks ago, bro.
No, well,
I'm just kidding. You mean as a kid? You don't
as
remember
a
watching
kid,
it?
yeah. The only thing I recall was how fun it was to follow C-3PO and R2-D2 throughout the sand. That was pretty cool. And the highlight for me was actually the X-Wing fighters. I love the look of those fighters, man. It's like they got 4 blasters, and you're right there in the center just shooting. That was awesome. But I'm going to go a little bit on how you approach this and talk about the history a little bit. Like, it's hard to believe that George Lucas directed this film, because we were just talking about the prequels and how, much of a disappointment.
He was a different
those
guy.
were.
He was
Totally different guy.
And this was a completely different project. Like you said, Jake, this was a passion project for him, something that only he believed in.
Yep.
And he made it work, and we see it in this film. The storytelling, the dedication, and
the character development,
the details, the dialogue, the
dialogue is
cinema,
so good.
the cinematography. It's just,
in a day when there was no cinematography, the cinematography is like incredible.
it's incredible. Like, who doesn't forget the first time Luke looks out in the sunset and the horizon and see the 2 suns, and John Williams' score in the background? Like, it's so iconic, and for what it did for cinema and for directors that we are working today, it's so incredible.
Well, every director today, well, most anyway, will say, when they're asked what influenced you to be a movie director or be a part of this business, Star Wars.
Exactly. So and that's something that no matter how much hate George Lucas gets for Star Wars from the fans, they better be damn lucky that this guy had the courage, the same courage he had in the prequels, only it didn't work out, to make this and to make it work in the face of so much hate and criticism. Like, good job, George Lucas. I'm sorry, I'm losing words. I'm just
No, dude, it's so magical
good.
what he did. I mean, imagine what today would be like without Star Wars. Like,
Right.
What it's done, not just for cinema, but for pop culture and communities everywhere. I mean, there's Force Friday and May the 4th be with you, and movie theaters are now being made after Star Wars, and there's Disneyland being Star Wars. It's like
it's
taken
arguably the biggest thing in pop
just
culture
imagine
of all time.
Imagine what it would be like. I mean, we're doing a podcast called the Padawan Podcast. What would the world be like without Star Wars?
We would never have the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We would never have franchises in general, I don't think.
Industrial Light Magic.
No, that's very true, because I think Star Wars was the first trilogy.
And the way branding and marketing and toys and posters and shirts and all of that, we would never have those type of things. I mean, it probably would have came eventually, but it all started with Star Wars.
Yeah,
Spaceballs.
Yeah.
that's a fantastic movie.
And I've never seen these films, but George Lucas gets a lot of credit for directing movies like THX 1138 and American Graffiti, and those were his
Graffiti's
2
great.
movies before Star Wars. So
He's a good director.
and he was a young man. He was probably hungry back then, and
Yep.
he wanted it. And when he made the prequels, he's a god. No one can tell him anything, and he's sitting on millions of dollars, and he has no. Maybe I don't want to say he doesn't have motivation, but he wasn't hungry, and he could have done whatever he wanted.
Well, let's not forget, and this is actually a news topic that we should have talked about earlier. Originally, he wanted either Ron Howard, Robert Zemeckis, or Steven Spielberg to direct Episode 1. He did not want to do that, but everybody told him.
The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, everybody told him.
Wow.
All 3 of the directors told him, George, you should be the one to make it. So the fact that he knew in his mind that, okay, maybe I'm not the right guy to do this. I saw what
See,
Episode
he's a
5 and
smart
6.
guy.
well, the only movie he directed in Star Wars was Star Wars. He didn't direct Empire.
I
or
know.
Return.
Yeah, he let other. That was perfect. And
So
He wrote them, but I mean, that's,
yeah. Well, him and Lawrence Kasdan.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. Kazan.
But I mean, we're kind of already talking about the positives, so let's continue the conversation. I mean, I know we're kind of coming up on time, but I mean, what are the positives of this film? Like, we've talked about what it's done for pop culture and communities everywhere in the movie business. But as for the film itself, what are some of the few things that stand out to you the most? I mean, Gio, is there 1 or 2 specific things that really really jump out to you? That
1 or 2, I have 8 or 9.
Oh, bring them up, man. Go ahead.
All right, it's on my phone, guys. So I'm gonna, like I said, the sunset shot. This is my 4th time talking about it, but all right. So you see Luke look out into the horizon. If there's no music, you understand why he's doing that, because he wants to go out there. he knows that he's destined for more. But what do you hear while that happens? You hear John Williams' score, his music, and I'm telling you, like, his best work is in the first film. Like, just, you know, that iconic score, it just adds so much more. It takes it to a next level. What else? The film does a great job establishing so much backstory within its dialogue, specifically with Alec Guinness and him talking to Luke Skywalker about Jedi Knights, about the Clone Wars. You know, it's
Without that, none of this past 15 years would have ever been made possible.
right, and it's the brilliance within the dialogue to have so much more. Like, people
He
want to know.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, people would want to know, like, what is this Clone Wars? What are the Jedi
He knew
Knights?
exactly what he was doing.
You see the fight with Darth Vader later on, and you're like, whoa, these are what Jedi Knights were? Like, that's incredible. What were they before the Empire? So that was amazing. Han shot first.
Ha! The movie talk just talked about that, and it's hilarious.
I know George Lucas said, like, what was it, yesterday, the day before, that in his mind, Greedo...
Well, you know why they did that, right? Why
Yeah.
they made Greedo shoot first?
Because they wanted to make Han not this...
Murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what he is.
Well, he's a scoundrel.
That's who he was when you first meet him.
He's a scoundrel.
And
yeah.
he changes over the
Yeah.
3 movies, just like
I'm
Luke
fine
did.
with Han shooting first.
And
I'd rather have it,
And
obviously.
it's not like he's gonna. He's not gonna kill an innocent person.
Well, a bounty hunter was coming after his head. It's like, obviously, he has to
Yeah.
kill him. So
exactly.
anybody
Yeah.
would have done the same thing.
Yeah, so I treated that scene as if Han shot first. And I liked it, you know? Like, it's ballsy.
Oh, that's how it
Yeah.
is today. Yeah.
Again, detail and dialogue. When Luke Skywalker is in the back seat asking Han, like, why isn't the light speed working? And Han is like, it takes time preparing for light speed, you know? If we're not building up this anticipation for nothing, we don't want to run into like a supernova or into another planet. You know, we got to be precise with this thing. I loved it. That was good dialogue. And then the funny moments when they're in the trash thing and C-3PO is being yelled at by Luke and is like, you know, like, stop it, you know, stop it. And then they stop it in time and they're celebrating and C-3PO.
Oh, that's so hilarious. He's
Yeah.
like, they're dying.
They're
He's like,
dying.
oh no, R2, we're too late. Oh,
Yeah.
too late.
We're
That's
terrible.
so hilarious.
Man,
I love that
I
moment.
love that one. I loved how they made Leia a stronger character than her just being the damsel in distress. you
Like,
know?
I know we talk about like Sigourney Weaver's Ripley and, you know, Charlize Theron's
Leia was the
Furiosa.
first badass.
She was the female character, like the one that like set
You
it
know
all
what's
off.
funny about that? They say like, oh, Star Wars is putting females in the forefront
They've
now.
always been
they
there.
They did it from the very
Well, just
beginning.
when people say-
Leia is the second. She's
Well, look how they say it. They say Star Wars, Luke, Leia, Han. Like,
yeah,
that's how you
she's
say
the
it.
second most important character. Like, I mean, hero in that trilogy. I mean, Darth Vader and Luke.
Well, she saves the dudes' butts more than they save
Yeah,
her.
she's in. And see where Padme belongs nowhere involved in the action. I believe Leia involved in the action.
She's a leader.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
I believe Felicity Jones.
yeah.
played
I would.
Leia.
I can't. I would. That would be incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the scene where Han and Luke are, well, actually before that, again talking about how strong she is. When Luke is sitting at the table after they escape the Death Star, and Luke is like, I can't believe he's gone. He's sad about Obi-Wan disappearing. I understand that. And then Leia is there comforting, and Leia just lost her entire planet, including her parents. Like, Alderaan just blew up. And she's somehow able to be stronger and be there supportive for Luke, this young farm boy who lost Ben Kenobi. I was like, wow, like Leia is so strong. I didn't realize that before, but strong female character. And then when they're shooting when Han and Luke are shooting the TIE fighters as they're escaping, again, John Williams music in there.
Don't get cocky, kid.
Yeah, and again, John Williams is so amazing. In
I
this.
did it. I got one. Oh my god.
Luke
Yeah.
is such a little boy in that movie.
Han just like, don't get cocky, kid.
Yeah.
And then Han messes with Luke about Leia.
Oh, I was gonna bring that up. That's
Yeah,
so
Leia-
fun. I love that. That might be my favorite moment in the whole movie because what is Luke's?
Luke
or-
is like, what do you think about Leia? And he
Yeah.
goes, I don't know, kid. Me and Leia,
Or he's like,
something
what do you
that."
think about a princess like her and a guy like me? And Luke's like, no. And then Han Han smiles.
Because he's messing. It's just,
Such great dialogue. Where were those moments in the prequels?
yeah,
Pressure, man. Pressure.
Yeah, and then lasting the celebration at the very end, the ceremony. Again, John Williams' score just, oh my God, when they're walking down and then like they get their medals and then they turn around and it's just a straight still shot of them, like all the main characters.
Such an iconic moment.
Great finale, yeah.
God, it's just amazing. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to echo everything you said. All those positives are fantastic. I mean, for me, the biggest positive for Star Wars, A New Hope, is the world building and character introduction. Like everything introduced, obviously kickstarted Revelation.
It's so subtle. Too.
Yeah, it was
nothing's
done so
forced.
perfectly. They took time on it. It wasn't like when we first meet Luke, he's this farm boy. When we leave Luke, or we leave A New Hope, he's still a farm boy just thrown into the rebellion. Like,
Yeah.
he's still this very young kid. He's not a Padawan or some super Jedi.
And we know he's a good pilot from the
Yeah.
beginning, and he's
Exactly.
he wants to go to the academy to be a pilot. So him flying at the end and being involved
It
in the
makes
last
sense.
battle, it's not like
It
thrown in
makes
there,
sense.
you know.
When he meets his friend from
Biggs.
Tatooine, Biggs, and they
Biggs.
talk about flying back home and all that kind of stuff.
And he tells him he's one of the best pilots I know.
Exactly. So just everything was done so perfectly.
So detailed.
All the dialogue Gio mentioned, I mean, such great dialogue. Most of it coming from Han because the dude's just a freaking genius.
That was a great cast with Harrison Ford.
That guy, man, it'll go down in history. Like him as Han Solo is so freaking
At
iconic.
first, they didn't want him to.
Yeah,
remember
it's
they did
so
not
iconic.
Well,
want
he was a
him.
nobody kind of.
Yeah, so
Wasn't he in American Graffiti?
He was.
He was in a previous film. I think it was
I'm
Graffiti.
pretty sure he
Well,
was. I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Yeah, but
so.
I'm pretty sure that's how George Lucas knew him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the casting: Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, Alec Guinness, all fantastic. I mean, all iconic in their own right. I mean, they did justice to the film, and he was in American Graffiti. There you go.
Yeah, he was in American Graffiti.
So, I mean, I call it Star Wars, even though it's called A New Hope. I like calling it by its original name because it was never called A New Hope until the frickin' prequels came around.
Was it when the prequels came around, or was it when?
Pretty sure when it was because that's
well,
when they
it's when he
Jedi.
like re-released the.
did he? Was it before the? Prequels?
I don't know when it was, but it was when
I
he
feel like
re-released
I
the.
feel like they
the
officially named it Episode 4: A New Hope when they decided to do Episode 1, 2, and
Yeah.
3.
Yeah,
It
I'm
was
pretty
around
sure.
'97, right?
Probably
Or something like that.
mid '90s when they
Yeah,
announced the
yeah.
prequels. So I mean, there's tons of positives to go for. I mean, if you've never seen Star Wars, obviously you should check out Star Wars. But it's just the universe and galaxy it created is just fantastic. I mean, everything: Millennium Falcon, Jedi's, well, not Sith, but bad guys with red lightsabers. Darth Vader. That probably the
Well, they called him Dark Lords.
the Dark Lords, not Sith Lords.
Yeah.
The Dark Lords. The most iconic villain in film history in Darth Vader.
The Death Star.
Yeah, the Death Star, one of the most scariest weapons ever made.
Is that a moon?
that scene's great though. The music in that scene is
Oh
fantastic.
yeah,
We're talking about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So plenty of things to talk about. I mean, Jacob, I know you're going last, and there's a ton of positives already talking about. But
Yeah, I mean,
the positives for you. I mean, I'm sure there's some
everything
some new
you
ones.
guys said is I love. But I feel like okay, so back then when the movie first came out, we didn't know who not we, but viewers didn't know who Darth Vader was. So imagine going into this movie not knowing anything about it's just a random movie that a big sci-fi movie came out. Let's go see it. So imagine watching it the first time and then by the time the movie ends, what do you think of Darth Vader just in this standalone movie? They created such a great villain. Because what is a huge problem we have with most of our comic book sci-fi big blockbuster movies today? The villain was weak. More than 90% of the time nowadays, the villain is weak.
Well, it was his story just as much as theirs.
And yeah, especially when you look at the whole trilogy. But it's they establish him right away. Right when you first meet him, he's choking some dude and he just throws him to the side.
He's the very first person we see, correct? Well, outside
no,
of the rebels and stormtroopers.
Well, it's R2D2 and
Well, yeah, outside of them, in Leia.
I think we see Leia.
We see Leia
and
first?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. We see her slipping the Death Star
No,
plans
you're right,
into
you're
R2D2,
right,
but we
you're
don't
right,
really
yes.
see her face.
You're right. Yes.
But yeah, we see Vader come through the door and what's his name? Voicing him is amazing.
James Earl Jones.
James Earl
Oh my
Jones, yeah.
god. And just being able to like now we could all say, oh, of course Darth Vader's a great villain, but imagine just back then seeing the movie and just him in A New Hope or just in Star Wars as a villain is phenomenal. So props to George Lucas for creating him and establishing him as a scary, like
Well,
you don't want to mess with him villain.
Directors have been trying to recreate that kind of villain
And
for years.
and to go along with Vader, Grand Moff Tarkin, and it's not just because I'm Grand Moff Bartley. Like,
No, he's great.
Tarkin is a great character, and how badass is he? He gets to order Darth Vader around. Like, what does he say? Vader, that's enough. When he's force choking somebody,
Yep.
like you get to order around arguably the most powerful being in the whole entire galaxy. And I love that Vader has a respect for like order, and like he knows that the Tarkin answers to the Emperor, and so Vader has to answer to Tarkin. And I love that they could have easily made it like, oh, Vader doesn't care what anyone says. He's more powerful. He could kill Tarkin if he wants. But I love that he respects Tarkin, and it's such a great dynamic between them two. And just the music is phenomenal. It's the best score of all time.
Oh, yeah.
ringtone.
Like it's
Which
so
one? The
Just
ceremony?
the actual theme song, the normal
and
one. The crawl,
just Alec Guinness and the way he portrays Obi-Wan, it's so elegant.
which is funny because he thought being Obi-Wan in this movie was gonna be stupid.
I remember hearing that. He thought he didn't want to do it or something.
Didn't wanna
Like,
do
why
it,
do you
yeah.
do it? And he got nominated, which is weird because he gave a really good performance, but it's like, was it really an Oscar-worthy performance?
I don't know.
Maybe it was
because
just the
it's-
the best performance in the movie.
Well,
so it's like,
because yeah, probably, and maybe back then characters like Han and Leia weren't considered supporting actors.
yeah.
Maybe they were considered leads.
Yeah, that's true. So, I thought he was so great, and like I could go on and on about Obi-Wan. He's my favorite character.
Well, the
but-
way he talks to Vader,
yeah,
like
and
just
just
the way he talks to him when they finally meet, it's so like just it's
and it's
everything
just
you want.
my favorite thing. Gio, you kind of referred to it, is when he explains the Force. I don't know the exact dialogue, but he says it's an all. I don't know what he says, but he says it binds everything together, and it's like that's all we need to know. We don't need to know about metachlorians and how high your metachlorian count is. Like the way Alec Guinness explains the Force in that little hut with Luke is like the best way possible. That's all you need to know about the Force. And I mean, I can go on and on. Just the final battle at the end when Vader,
The X-Wings.
I love that Vader goes. He's like, "F this! I'm gonna go handle this myself," and he's just killing all of them.
Him
like
and his two squad members
he
just
just
going
keeps
after him,
knocking
yeah.
all of them off, and then, like I said, I can go on. Leia's great character, especially in the '70s, establishing a female character like that is huge, and I hate that people don't realize that it's already been done. Like people say, "Oh, we need." Like there's not a lot
It's been
of
done for decades. People just don't realize
strong
it.
female characters. Like you open your eyes and look that in the biggest franchise they had arguably the best female character ever. So yeah, those are my main positives. I mean, I could go on and on, but those are the big huge things that stand out to me.
Well, we're gonna jump into negatives, and I don't know if there's gonna be. I mean, do you guys have any major negative? I know Jacob has one he wants to talk about.
I do.
Which one?
So Jacob, go ahead.
Look, all right. Just looking at this movie alone, not looking at the trilogy, I didn't like the way they introduced Luke. He up until the last like 45 minutes, he's not a likable character, and he's supposed to be the main character and the hero. He's very whiny, and
You don't
right,
understand?
right when you meet him, he's whining to Uncle Owen. He's whining to Han. He's whining to Obi-Wan. Like his high-pitched voice. I mean,
But
I
I
don't
was
know.
gonna go
I'm
to
probably going to
Tosh-
get killed by a bunch of Star Wars fans, but I don't dig it the way they introduce
Oh,
him.
no, they feel the same way.
And I love Luke. I don't know. Like you never hear like a lot of people say like, who's your favorite Star Wars character? No one ever says Luke, but like after Obi-Wan, he's probably my favorite character. But it's just the way, and now I get it because George Lucas, the way he wrote the story, you introduce this young, like lost, immature, whiny kid, and by the time you see him in Return of the Jedi, he's a beast. Like you don't want to mess with Luke by
Or
that
The Force
time.
Awakens.
Yeah, so
Dude. Oh.
and imagine
Jesus.
like realizing he went from this little whiny kid to who he is in The Force Awakens. So that's my biggest
I have
negative.
chills thinking about him in The Force Awakens.
That's my
Because we're
biggest
only gonna see him
negative.
for about 10 minutes.
And the stormtroopers, Like, come
Yeah, the
on.
stormtrooper shooting is a big one, but
And
that's
it's
kind of
like it's in every movie.
It's kind of the fun of Star Wars, though. It's because it's an on-running joke.
yeah.
It's an
And it's became like it's a thing in its own.
Yeah,
you know?
so
like,
I'm okay with it just because it's all fun and games and it's Star Wars. But I mean, it's an on-running joke. So, but I totally get because them missing that much is pretty dumb, and the armor apparently doesn't protect them from anything. So.
and one last thing. I talked to you about this, Jake. Not hate, but I really dislike that Luke didn't really react to his uncle and aunt being killed.
Yeah,
like,
we can
and
talk about that.
I watched it again, and it's like it doesn't go directly like it doesn't go right from him finding out. Like, it doesn't show how he reacted right after it.
Yeah, it cuts.
Jumps from when he first sees it to, like, I would say about 30 minutes later when he's talking to Obi-Wan. So for all I know, during that time he could have fell on his knees and cried his eyes out, but they just didn't show him really react. And like, he has no other family. These are his parents. And they just died, and we didn't get a reaction. So that's
I'm not saying that Luke doesn't care about it, Uncle Owen and Aunt.
And I know there's a lot of bigger
What is her
things
name?
Aunt
going
Patoon?
on.
What is it?
Ampatoon?
No, it's like Aunt Vareen.
And Vareen? Varun?
It's something like that. Anyway, I know I'm not saying that he doesn't care about him or whatever, but
Aunt Beru.
Aunt Beru, there you
Beru.
go. I almost take it like he saw that happen. Now, because Ben Kenobi, he sees something in him, like the Force is guiding him to somewhere, like taking him away there to go with Ben Kenobi. Like, it's in him already, and he doesn't realize it. Like, he may have reacted, like you said, there's time in between the cuts that we don't know about. But something kind of took him away from that situation. Be like, okay, I have to go do this now. There's nothing else here for me. I have to go on this with Ben Kenobi. I have to do this. Go find myself. Go find a bigger cause.
Yeah, I
blah,
love,
blah, blah.
like, I like that moment, but it's just like,
The reaction to
and
it.
it's one of my pet peeves in movies or shows when,
There has to be an emotional
like,
scene.
I hate when characters don't react to people really close to them dying. And, like, a good example is, like, you know, the first Maze Runner movie. You like the Maze Runner movies, right? Or no? You know the first Maze Runner movie when the fat kid dies?
Yeah.
And the way he reacts,
Yes,
that's
smart.
so realistic, and I really appreciated that. And that's something, like, that's how I want to see Luke
Chuck.
react. Yeah, and it's
Chuck.
like, that's a kid he's only known for like a month, you know? And it's like, these are your parents, and they got, I don't know.
How about those stormtroopers, though, incinerating their skin? There's skeletons left.
I know, right? That was pretty
brutal.
pretty gnarly.
Pretty brutal.
Well, they burned them, right?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were right there. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Red-eyed skeletons. All right, so anything else we want to add? Positive, negatives? You know,
You guys didn't talk about any negative. You guys don't have
I don't
negatives?
have negative. I don't have a
Oh,
negative.
you don't have any negatives?
I don't have a
Oh,
negative.
wow. Okay.
Do you have any?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got like
Yeah.
8 or
You really
9.
don't have any negatives?
I'll agree with you with the family thing, but I'm pretty much okay with the entire movie. Like, I am 100% all in.
Look, this is my favorite movie of all time, and I just nothing's perfect, you know.
There isn't, but there's nothing enough to where like
It
like
bothers
takes
you.
Yeah.
I even said that in my review. I was like, "Look, guys, I'm nitpicking for
Yeah,
negatives."
it would all be
you know?
nitpicky, and there's just
Yeah.
no point in doing that.
Yeah.
So
Nope. If I'm gonna point out some negatives from my favorite Star Wars movie, this one gets no exception. I don't care how iconic it is. Since I did not watch the original films, and I don't think any of us have seen the original cuts, I'm gonna talk about the special editions and these damn special effects that make it look like the 70s threw up
Okay,
these VFX shots.
No, those are definitely negatives.
You want to talk about like?
but that's hard to include in a negative, like because that's not the original stuff.
But you
I
still have the right to talk about it. because
I haven't seen the original cut, so
Yeah,
I'm
so
only,
no, this
I
is-
can only go off of whatever.
Talking about Jabba,
I'm talking
where he
about.
steps on his tail.
Oh, I'm gonna get to that. That's like number 4. But
Jesus!
yeah. So the special effects, like, it starts when the stormtroopers are riding these things as they're looking for the escape pod stuff. You know what I'm
Oh
talking
yeah,
about?
the four-legged monster.
The four-legged
beast.
monsters.
Yeah.
And then when they go into Mos Eisley, by the way, I like how the special effects fill in Mos Eisley like a little more. That's cool. But you see these like big creatures, and there's one creature that walks in front of the camera.
It's so stupid. It takes
just-
you out.
It takes
of it.
you out. It's
I'll
not.
agree. I'll agree with that. I can include that as a negative.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. And Luke Skywalker, you talked about in the beginning how he's like a little whiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like his acting is not very good in the beginning. I'm sorry, but you know, he says this line of dialogue where he goes, where the uncle goes, I want these 2 droids washed up and cleaned up by the morning. And he goes, aw, but I was going to go to Tashi Station and pick up some power converters. And they're like, what? And you're just like, oh, what a little
Well, hey,
whiny
to be
guy.
fair, he's only 18 years old.
Hey.
He's a young kid.
Oh.
So even though that was my negative, but that's how a young kid would act. So
So what about, oh, okay. I was about to bring up Jake Lloyd, but never mind. All right.
that's a totally different story. That's
Yeah.
like 10 to 18.
Let's talk about Uncle Owen. He seems like a little bit of a one-note character, yeah?
Definitely.
Every time he talks, it's always Luke. Luke, do this. Luke, I need you to do this. Luke, I need you after the harvest season. Luke, those 2 droids better be cleaned up by tomorrow. Luke, I need your help. Luke, take these 2 droids and clean them up. Luke. I'm like, oh my God. Is there anything else that you... Damn. Do you love your nephew or not? Because all you
We're
do
about to get sniped
is
by some Star
order
Wars
him.
fans right now.
That's
You
all-
guys are.
That's all you do is like,
Just like,
order him. Luke, do
I know,
this.
how
I'm
to,
like,
I know how to protect myself from them.
I'm like,
The
come on,
Force is
Uncle
gonna
Owen.
Kill us.
I'm sorry, but I have to treat these films as I do every other Star Wars film. So yeah, Uncle Owen, I thought he was a bit one note, but I mean, whatever. And then,
What is that?
that was Obi-Wan's scream when he appears out of nowhere and gives that loud.
I don't think he was screaming.
What was that?
I don't think he was screaming.
What was that?
I don't
I'm trying
know.
to-
Maybe it was what were the things that were attacking Luke? Sand people?
Was that them or was
Might have
that
been Sam
Obi-Wan?
people.
'Cause
No, it's Obi-Wan. It's him making that noise. It is.
where the hell did that come from?
No, he did it to scare them or like to like make them run away
I
or something.
wanted to see that little
But
bit
no,
in the
it-
prequel.
That's nitpicking though. Come on.
I am. That's what I'm doing. Yes, guys. I am nitpicking because
Wait, when he did that noise, you didn't know what it
I
was?
just have to.
It never even crossed my mind. It's
No.
like Obi-Wan. I'm just like, okay,
No,
whatever.
it is Obi-Wan who does
I'm
it.
just like, whatever. It's a sound. Okay.
How was that for a reenactment? Was that good?
That was actually right on.
My next one. All right. So you want to talk about dialogue? Not all of it is perfect. It's not like Luke. Obi-Wan tells Luke, "Look at these blasters. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise." Really? So I thought that was out of place. Yeah, throwing in Jabba the Hutt, that was a little bit like it felt out of place. All right. Once again, you're throwing in special effects to make the story. You think you're making the story better, but it's not. Okay.
Oh, you know
And-
what else they threw in there? Boba Fett was not in that scene originally.
Yeah. All right, so I'm watching this movie on the ultra high definition curve TV from Samsung,
Or
Hey, lucky you,
sponsored
bro.
by them or
and
something?
it
Well,
shows what
You want a high five for that?
later.
I think they're paying him to say that.
Oh,
So-
okay,
He's,
okay.
they're endorsing.
I'm watching
sponsorship,
I'm
yeah.
watching episode 4 on my TV, and it shows Han Solo stepping over Jabba the Hutt's tail, and it looks so fake. I'm sorry, it just
That wasn't included in the original edits.
yeah, but it's just George Lucas. Why would you do that? Like
It's George
just-
Lucas.
Yeah.
Come
So-
on now.
Let's nitpick about the prison scene. How many cameras does that prison in the Death Star, the reception desk need? Like for a minute long, they're just shooting cameras. I'm like, how many cameras are in this thing? Again, it's a nitpick, but it's like, wow, those are a lot of cameras, you know. And you know what? That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I never even thought about that being a negative or any of those being negatives. I guess I just called it nitpicking. But anything else that we want to add?
I recognize how great this film is. It really is great. You know, it started the whole entire Star Wars series. So, guys, as far as my negatives go, it's nitpicking, okay? All right, this is still an awesome film. It's amazing, incredible, and all that. It deserves all the praise.
Jacob?
Yeah, one thing me and Gio talked about multiple times on the way here also was that if this movie was just a standalone film by itself, like it'd be a really great film. Like it has
Because there's a clear ending.
yeah, it has a beginning, middle, end, all makes sense and it all wraps up. The only thing that's left open ended is Darth Vader still being alive.
Yeah.
Which it would have been cool to been like, it just ends that way and like that villain's still alive somewhere
Well,
out there.
it kind of could have gone either way. Like maybe.
Oh, maybe he did die.
Yeah,
because
we see a ship kind of spinning.
and they even said those small ships they can't last out there.
So there, it could have gone either way.
Yeah, at least it didn't show a ship blow up or
Yes,
anything.
yes.
So I just think it's cool to think like if this was just a standalone movie by itself, it would have been a great film.
Yeah,
and that's
for sure.
all I got to say. Star Wars trilogy is my favorite movie of all time, but like I go back and forth between A New Hope and Empire, but this is arguably my favorite movie ever. So
Nice. Well, that's going to wrap up our Padawan podcast today, our reviewing of the films. Before we go, Jacob, where can they find you online, man?
you can find me, Jacob Grandma Bartley, on Twitter at Governor Bartley, and anywhere Facebook, Instagram, Jacob Bartley, and on this YouTube channel.
What about you, Gio?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Georgia Ramos24. And sorry if I was too harsh on the Star Wars films, but come at me, bro.
You can find me at Twitter, Instagram, at Qui-Gon Jake, our Facebook page at Apocalypse Movies. Make sure to subscribe and like our YouTube channel. We're trying to do big things over here at Apocalypse Movies. And look out next week for our final reviewing of the Star Wars movies a week before The Force Awakens comes out. We're 2 weeks out from tonight,
2
fellas.
weeks. Oh
2
my
weeks out
goodness.
from tonight.
Oh, my God.
Once again, thank you for joining me or joining us. And until next time, may the Force be with you.